the second, I'm sorry? Thank you.
I made the motion.
It was Mike's idea, but Phil made the motion.
I was looking for a little more. I wanted to put that DPW position back, but I will compromise and I will go along with that. As long as we're not cutting $40,000 more off the town side of the budget.
I agree.
No.
Okay, now, just before we vote, and although it's potentially a different subject, it is intertwined.
Which is why, this is where I'm going to, I think,
Yeah.
same spot.
This doesn't necessarily take the override question off the table. I mean, it may in terms
May.
of us.
Let's decide this first.
But
No,
I bring it up because, you know, if the school department requests an override, you know, I'm basically in support of that. I don't know where everyone else is, but
Mr. Chairman.
yes.
I think the issue is very important in relation to how the majority of the board's going to vote in relation to the override and in relation to this question. If this compromise position puts the majority in the board of the frame of mind that no override should be proposed, I'm opposed to it. Because again, my support for the school system and the school department hasn't changed. I would still like to see it fully funded. And if this compromise position takes away the majority vote of this board to offer that opportunity to the community to do, I think it's wrong. And I'm not going to be in support of it. And what I've heard, and maybe I misinterpreted some members, but I don't think so, is that it would appear as though there may not be enough votes for an override. So I'm not in favor of the compromise
Right.
at this particular point. I heard Michael say that this was it, you're not in favor of the override.
Could I clarify?
Sure.
Well, my position is, if it came down to it, I would love to restore the cuts, and if the board would like to move with the override, and the majority of the board, it seems, I think would, I would have no problem with that either. I was just saying, if we could do this, it would assuage a few of my fears of cutting everything. And if the board felt that it didn't want to move forward with an override, I could look at that too. I would like to see, I mean, I would like to see an override on, because I would like to see everything restored, of course, just like everybody else. But if the majority of the board moved forward and decided not to do one, this is a real political answer right here.
Yeah, you are the majority of the board. You end up to be a major swing vote on this issue. But I mean,
You don't know how Bob feels on the override.
Well, I don't know how he feels, but I know.
I just said it, I will support an override.
And I will too, and you will, Steve, so it's answered.
Okay.
There's no question there. I'll still go for the override.
All
I
right,
was just saying
so,
that this compromise.
You vote for an
position
override,
assuages my
you're
fears.
in favor of an override no matter what, Bob? Or are you in favor of an override? I'm unclear what you said. You're in favor of an override if the school committee still wants one? Or you're in favor of an override and not in favor?
I'm in favor of an override if the school department still wants an override.
Okay, but otherwise you're not?
Right.
Okay. Well,
I haven't changed my
you
position either.
then you make a big difference, Michael, in what you want to do. I mean, I'm willing to go to this, I want to restore the money to rec is, you know, absolutely, you know, I want to restore the money to rec. And I agree with Joe that the collector's position is a real serious problem if we don't fund it. But I mean, you know, I thought this was a compromise, so we didn't have an override.
Well,
No.
this
So
was-
did I.
this
That's
is
why
my-
I was-
this is
No, I
my-
didn't.
That's what you originally proposed.
Yeah, I've kind of viewed this as our contingency plan if an override should fail. I would just like to see it, it seems everybody's out for blood, and this way everybody's bleeding. So it's,
Well, you know, I want to say something, because,
Let's
you know,
move on
this collector's position has been brought up, you know, we got this issue where we're falling behind in all of this. We've invested a fair amount of money
Yes.
in technology. I'm not convinced it's being 100% utilized. I talked to Mary Ann on Friday, and one of the interesting things, I said to her, I said, you know, on the website you can pay your bills, right? And she says, well, you know, this electronic payment isn't helping us. We have more work to do. So I asked her to clarify it. And she told me that it wasn't the website paying, you know, transfers that was causing the problem. It was people that use electronic payment, like at the Bay Bank.
Online banking, yeah.
And they send a check in, and, you know, the paperwork isn't there, and they've got extra work to reconcile the paperwork. Well, you know, when I pay my bill to American Express or to Comcast, it goes electronically from the bank because the bank has set up some arrangement, the Comcast has set up some arrangement with the bank. Well, maybe the town ought to set up some arrangements with at least a couple of the local banks. It won't cover everybody, but that might get rid of some of those things. And until we make adjustments, there will be no effort to make efficiencies. You know, and if we're not going to make efficiencies, we're going to be back here again next year. So just so you can explain my position on making some of these adjustments. And they may not be the exact ones, but, you know, I would hold it to the administration to come back and say, we made a mistake here. We really should have put that money into this position instead. Or we need to make a capital investment of something else, right? But if we don't start to implement some changes in the way we're doing business, right, we're going to be here year after year after year. And, you know, this is an opportunity, many of us don't think so, when money is tight, to force us to start to think out of the box. Now, I don't like to make these cuts, but I looked at these cuts as at least I'm not laying somebody off. I don't have that on my conscience.
I agree.
So that's where I'm coming from, just so everybody knows and it's clear.
But I think you can fund the position and still move for economies. Do the both. I mean, I agree with you that we need to do technology and economies, but I think that's,
I guess
that doesn't mean we don't fund the position for now.
we're prepared for a
Short-term.
vote.
Well, no, just to, and again, we had this discussion in relation to the treasurer's position, and there's no doubt this is the way we've always operated. And I agree, we've invested a tremendous amount of money in technology, and I think some of the fixes are pretty quick fixes that could assist, in particular at the busier times when tax bills are being paid and things of that sort, where if you set up these accounts, as you suggested, it's a pretty simple transfer. Again, reallocation of the human resources that we have within Town Hall to meet the busy times in different departments. You know, people have to be flexible here and have to be able to work within the confines of what we have. And as I agree with the chairman, until we effectuate some of these changes, and again, I look upon it as the same way as the chairman does. You know, while it's an opportunity, it's one that we weren't necessarily looking forward to, but it is an opportunity to do things differently here, and it forces us to do it. Otherwise, you know, to restore the $25,000 and say, and invest some more in the technology and not do anything different to save yourself a dime, that doesn't solve anything, and you've just funded that for a whole nother year. You've postponed the inevitable, or something that we should be doing something a little bit differently. So I disagree.
It takes a while to effectuate the items that Bob has proposed, and it's absolutely what we need to do.
It takes a while.
Yeah,
You can
sure
set up
it does.
account tomorrow. You can set up accounts tomorrow. You know, setting up bank accounts and setting up relationships with institutions. I mean,
Then you've got to get people to use, never mind, whatever. Let's vote on this thing. We may get-
so again, I think, Mr. Chair, in relation to the motion that's before us, I'm not going to vote in favor of it. I think, you know, my priorities haven't changed.
Okay.
I think the cuts that we've made, you know, while difficult, again, it presents an opportunity, and I'm going to vote for what I consider to be the status quo at this point as to what we've already decided on things. And
Okay, any other comments? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
no.
No. 3-2. Motion carries. With respect to an override question, at this point, I would like to, someone want to make a motion?
I vote to support the putting an override question on the ballot that includes the additional school needs to fund priority 3 and the already consensus realized through the board's previous actions.
So it's based. Yeah,
What's that?
It's the 50,000 that get.
Yeah, the number's the
Oh,
same.
yeah, that's right,
The
I'm sorry.
number's the same, it's just in a
It's
different
priority number 2 to the tune of $50,000 and fully fund priority 3 as presented under the school needs, in addition to those restorations previously proposed on March 17th by the board.
And we will have an updated slide with those exact numbers.
It appears to be
Next meeting.
somewhere around $827,400.
I'll second that.
Motion by Mr. O'Leary, seconded by Mr. Vino. Further discussion? All in favor? I'm sorry.
No, I mean,
Discussion.
the motion's made in a positive vein to support. I'm against supporting an override. I don't feel that it's in the best interest of this town. I don't feel that it's a good thing for us to do. I think if you think back, I just want to say, if you think back to what happened last year, all right, I don't think we need to go through that again, all right? And I don't think it's fair to do the people of North Reading, and I think that that's our job, is to provide the leadership as to how the budget gets done, and that's what we've done. So to me, I'm against it. I'm against the override. I don't think it's, like I said, I don't think it's in the best interest of the town of North Reading.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Mr. Dardino keeps saying that he doesn't think we're providing any leadership here. We've made some very difficult decisions and made some very difficult choices in the likelihood that an override does not prevail or the board doesn't vote to put one on. We know exactly where we stand in relation to prioritization of services that are going to be brought forward starting July 1st. That's been done. That's a leadership position that we've taken. All we're doing here is going one step further. And I guess the difference between some of the members of the board and others here is that we have not established the same level of priorities in relation to restoring education in the town of North Reading. And if that's not important, I don't know what is. None of this is fluff. None of this is extra services. None of this is expansion of programs. This is a restoration budget on the school side and a cut budget on the general government side, no matter what happens with this override. Even if the override prevails, we're coming in with a less in the way of operations on the general government side and restoring some of the damage that we did by not properly funding it a few years back. So, I don't see this as a non-leadership vote. I don't see this as a non-leadership position. I think we worked very hard to get to the point we were at. And again, I don't think we've gone far enough, as I said last week. So, for us not to present that to the public as a matter of choice, to properly restoring the educational system in this town for our kids, I think is irresponsible. We don't have the revenue sources to do it. If we did, we would have done it. If we had the money, if we had an additional $850,000 or $830,000, this is exactly where we would be. We're not there. We don't have it. And it's not an irresponsible position to be putting it forth for consideration. If the general public doesn't want to support it, that's their choice, and everybody has to make that decision on their own. I understand what the times are out there. Everybody's feeling the pinch. But for what, $800,000 on a $500,000 house was at $132 or something. $160. So it's 4 cents.
Well, it's the reason, it's going to lead to people getting used to telling you no. They're going to tell you no just because they told you no before. All right, and next year, you talk about how you need it next year. Next year, if you need an override, you're going to go back to them and they're going to say, hey, we told you no the last 2 years running. 2 years in a row. Okay? And I think
that's okay. Let them tell me no.
It is absolutely short-sighted to ask for an override, in my opinion.
And again,
but that's okay. Let's vote.
Chairman, I've heard people tell me, last year and years before when they voted against the override, it's not because they didn't want to vote for it; they couldn't afford it, and that's fine. That was their choice.
What's changed now?
Maybe nothing.
But why do that to people?
What am I doing to them? I'm giving them the opportunity. First of all, people should be exercising the right to go out and vote anyway, whether it be for an issue or for candidates. Come out and vote. What am I doing to them other than giving them a choice? That's a terrible thing to be doing to people, is giving them a choice.
No, you're not
God
showing.
forbid, shoot me.
Let's,
No?
through the chair, please.
What a terrible thing to do. Give people an option and a choice. To fully, not even for that, to restore what was done as a result of the confines of Proposition 2.5. Not because of what anything we've done or anything that the school department has done.
What do you mean? We made all the cuts.
No.
Yeah.
What we're giving them the opportunity to do
One
is
at a
to
time,
fund
please.
it, if they so choose. A restoration budget, not an additional budget. And again, what was cut on the school department side, and what was cut on this side here, was through no fault of any elected or appointed town official in this community. It's driven strictly by revenue. We don't have enough revenue to support the level of services that we as leaders believe should be put forth for the educational system of our children and for the public safety and maintenance of our buildings. I mean, of our community as a whole. We don't have enough to do what should be done at a minimal level. There's nothing here that's being suggested as you
You know
know,
what? We can go
blowing
back-
it out of the way.
May I? We can go back and forth forever. You've got your opinion, and we've all heard it, okay? The fact of the matter